Hello everyone and welcome to Lab 7. For this lab we're going to be using an application called MultiSpec, and you are welcome to download that onto your personal computer. It will be free for you as a student. If you are using Windows and Mac, just notice the different download links in the Lab 7 document. I'm going to be doing this on Udesc just because I think it's going to be a little bit easier. Another thing to note for this lab, we are also going to be using Microsoft Office. So later in the lab document on page 6 and 7, you can scroll down and there's instructions and links for how to install Office 365 onto your computer. But if you don't want to do either of those, you'll have access to both these applications in Udesc, so that's where I will be working. And so whether you're in Udesc or using a personal computer, just go ahead and create a lab folder in a place that's convenient for you to find it. If you're in Udesc, we're going to go to the UStore and geoplanning class and find your name from the class list and go ahead and make your folder. Should be pretty familiar to you at this point. We're just going to create a new folder called Lab 7. And then within that, we are also going to create a data folder as usual, simply titled data. Once you have your folder ready, as usual, we're going to navigate to As You Learn in the Lab 7, and we'll download the zip. It won't take too long to download, and we are going to go through the same process as usual. Once it's downloaded, navigate to your downloads folders, and it will be zipped. So we want to extract this. And then once it's extracted, you want to come into the folder and copy and paste all three of these files into your data folder. So you can do control click to select multiple at one time, then right click copy, and we'll get back to that F drive, classes, and then copy it into your, or paste it into your data folder. And it will let you know when it's done, and we'll pick up from there. Once you have them pasted, we can go ahead and minimize these, and then within Udesc, we're going to open MultiSpec. So you can come and click on the Windows tab and just simply search for MultiSpec, and it'll appear like that. You can open it, and this text output will appear. So we want to come up to File to add our image and go down to Open Image. And you'll need to navigate to where you have the file saved. So for us on Udesc, that is going to be, you can come down to this PC, geoplanning, class, F drive, and navigate back to your data folder. And that will make the connection, and you should only have one option to open the CLE, and go ahead and press open. Once it's open, you'll notice this new dialog box is here. So this will allow us to set the display specifications for the CLE or the Cleveland image. Under panels over here, you'll note that it's red, green, blue. And so these are the color guns available. Each color gun is going to display or hold one band. So the numbers listed next to are the bands we're telling it to display. So we want to change these so that the red band is showing 5. The green is 4, and the blue is 3. So it should be 5, 4, 3 going down. And then everything else is set. You can just go ahead and press OK. And then you'll notice the image appears. We can go ahead and minimize this text output and full screen this to get a little bit better of a view. Once your image is loaded, you can also go ahead and full screen this box. And with everything full screened, you can go ahead and pan around and zoom in and out using these mountain icons up here. So panning, if you have a classic mouse, you can scroll, or however you're Computer or laptop scrolls best. You can kind of play around with that. Mine's a little weird. So for me to zoom and pan, I click on a spot, and then if I want to zoom in, you press the big mountain icons, and you'll notice it's zooming in on where I clicked. And if you want to zoom out, you'll do that. So if you're having a hard time panning around, you can click and zoom, and it should take you to your point for what it zooms in on. You can also hold and click and draw a box, and then when you zoom in, the area will take you to where you drew that box. So now we're going to open the same image but using a different band combination. So we're going to come up to File, Open Image, and it should take you right back to where your folder first opened, that first connection you made. You can press Open, and then when the box comes up, we want to change the combinations to 4, 3 in green, and 2 in blue. And so this is referred to as a 4-3-2 combination. Go ahead and press OK. Then when it opens, you can zoom around the image again, and it'll tell you, like, this one should be a little bit more highlighted, so you can tell that I'm zooming in and out on that image, and you can compare the differences of this same two images you just looked at, but with different band combinations. Now we're going to open the image one more time. So again, come up to File. You should be right there again, but we are going to use another different band combination. So we are going to use a 7-5-3 combination. So red you will change to 7, green will be 5, and blue will be 3. Go ahead and press OK. Again, you'll notice it's the same image, but just a different band combination and color. So you can navigate and zoom around there as well, just to examine like what features you can point out, like rivers, streets, and see how they look differently between the 3 different band combinations. So one final time, we're going to open the image again. Same process, File, Open Image, and open it. And then this time it's going to be a 5-4-3 combination. So that first combination we made, go ahead and click OK. And then when this opens, this is the only one we need. So you can close out the other images we had open and just full screen this one. And then at this point, we want to zoom in and get to this airstrip. That was a pretty concise and exact zoom for me, but you might have to navigate to it, and you should be able to see it pretty easily from the long straight lines, and it's right near the waterfront. From here, you want to examine this and its surroundings to help you answer question 7. And so from here, you just want to make note of the surrounding urban areas of the airport, and these should appear as cyan or white. And once you make note of those, go ahead and half screen this because we are going to open a new selection graph. So to do that, you're going to come up to Window and New Selection Graph, and it will appear. You can make it a little bit bigger. So essentially what this is doing is showing us the graph of any pixel we select. So if I click, you'll notice the graph will change depending on the shade of the pixel I am selecting. Once you are familiar with the tool and feel like you have a good feel for it, we're going to select an urban area. So again, those are the bright cyan or very light blue or white. So I'm going to come to this area, which is a little bit southwest of the airport, and click on that and note the graph structure. So the selection graph shows the brightness values for each pixel, and the band numbers are on the x-axis and the brightness values on the y. And again, you can expand or minimize this as needed for your best view. And then after that, you want to come and select a water pixel and note the differences in the band numbers and brightness values. Moving on to part 2, this is where Microsoft Office is going to come into play, specifically PowerPoint. So if you are using a personal computer and you haven't already downloaded it, go ahead and follow those instructions. Those are step 22 and 23. If you're in UDesk, we're just going to come down to the search bar and search for PowerPoint. and it might say that the product is not licensed. If that's the case, go ahead and just use your AppState login. It should say use a Microsoft login, and your AppState email and password should allow you full access if that is the case, and you want to click on blank presentation after that. I'm going to go ahead and delete these boxes just so they don't get in the way later. And from our blank presentation, we want to insert a line chart. So we're going to come up to insert, chart, and go down to line and press OK. You'll notice the chart will appear as well as a little Microsoft Excel window. In this new Excel window, feel free to expand it. You're going to want to see at least down to the 8th row. We want to go ahead and change this series 1. We are going to call this urban. Series 2 is going to be changed to water, and series 3 will be changed to vegetation. And so if you're not following along with the lab document, at this point, go ahead and pull it up because we're also going to change these category names. So the lab document will walk you through it, but we are going to change these to reflect the band values for our bands 1 through 7. So we're going to place category 1 with band 1, which will be coastal, and then we're going to add those values. So that will be 0.43 through 0.45. And from here, go ahead and follow along with the rest of the lab document and fill those in. Once you have all of them entered, this is what it will look like with the correct values. And we're going to go ahead and select and delete these numbers from the existing window, or the initial window that we had. So this is what it should look like when you're ready to continue. So now we're going to use the MultiSpec selection graph to fill in these values. So the easiest way to do both at the same time is to click and hold your PowerPoint, and if you move it over to the side, it should snap in, and then it'll allow you to select another screen to fill in the other half window. And that will be the most effective way to set it up. And then we're going to click and point and gather values for pixels like that. From here, we are going to use our multi-spec selection graph to actually fill in the numbers. So once you have everything set, click on an urban pixel, and the spectral graph will show the brightness values. And from here, we want to estimate about what those brightness values are for each band. Once you have your pixel selected, you can expand the selection graph for a little bit easier estimating. Your graph won't look exactly the same as mine, and your values won't be the same either because we're estimating. So just do your best. So for this first band, that to me looks like it's maybe about 17,000. So go ahead and write in 17,000, and that is for this band 1. That is the brightness value for band 2. Doesn't look much higher at all. I'll say 1700 or 17,200. Band 3 looks about equal, but maybe ever so slightly lower. So let me say 17,100, and just go ahead and do that up until band 7 for that urban. Once those are all filled in to your best confidence of an estimate, we are going to do the same thing for water. One thing you can notice is as I filled in these values, my line chart filled in, and it has the same kind of general shape that spectral graph did. So that will show you that your estimate values were following the same path. And we're going to do this for water. So I'll click on water, and you'll note how different the chart looks. And so we'll go ahead and estimate those values for water. Once you're confident in those estimation values, again, you'll also notice the line chart updated to show water. We are going to select a different pixel for vegetation, and that will be red. So find a nice bright red area, and you can look at the spectral graph of that, and we'll do the same process of filling in those estimates again. Once your table is complete, you can close the table and full screen PowerPoint so we can begin to edit the chart. So once you are ready to update your chart, if you click the chart, this chart design tab will show up. It might take you right there. You might have to click on it, but you can change the background to something that's easy to read. Again, try to keep it simple and just make sure that things stand out. So I'll probably go with this one. And then we want to pick colors for our lines that make sense. So right now my vegetation is gray, but I want to make that green. So if I double click it and go to this fill and come down to color, I can change it to a nice solid green. And if it only does that for one segment, you can control click or get the whole line just by clicking. It should, if you click on it multiple times, it should fill the whole thing for you. And so we want to pick colors that make sense. I'm going to change my water to blue, and I like to make my urban red or something that stands out, especially when I'm already using blue and green. So once that's all set, you'll note the little legend at the bottom, updated to reflect the color changes. Now we're going to finish designing the chart. So first thing to do is go ahead and make sure your chart fills the entire screen. So fit it to fill that completely. It should kind of offer you a little guide and kind of snap right in when it's there. From here, we're going to change the chart title. So if you just select it, it'll allow you to change it to whatever. For this, we're going to call it spectral profile, and then your name. And then we are also going to add X and Y axes. You also note that expanding it made it a little easier to see the categories at the bottom here. So from here, you come up to add chart element, axis titles, primary horizontal. You do the same thing for primary vertical. And from here, you can select these. So I am going to call mine, or do it correctly, for your Y value will be brightness value, and your X axis we want to call wavelength, and then in parentheses micro meters. So go ahead and make sure your chart is how you want it to look and it accurately reflects those spectral values that we just found. Once you're ready to save it, we want to save it as a picture. Do not just screenshot it. We will be able to tell the difference. It's much easier to read when you save it as a picture. So make sure it is either a PNG or JPEG, whichever file, it doesn't really matter whichever one you like more. And then make sure to save it into that data folder that we created. So if you're in Udesk, the classic, you'll navigate back to the classes, your name, and data, and save this as your username spectral profile, and you can hit save. And then from here, go ahead and save the entire PowerPoint. So you can click File, Save As, and then make sure to navigate to the right location. It'd be easier for me to do it this way. And if you're in Udesk again, navigate back. You want to save this in your data folder as well. And if you're in Udesk and you're saving everything here, you don't need to zip the file for safekeeping because it will all be stored already. But if you worked personally on your own laptop or computer, go ahead and do the usual process of saving it to Udesk through a zipped folder. For your PowerPoint, you can go ahead and name it spectral profile as well. If you want to make the name a little bit different so you can tell it apart, like adding an extra underscore or something. It'll be a different format. The PowerPoint will be a PowerPoint and the picture will be a JPEG. And after that, the lab will be complete and you are good to turn it in with your answers. So Make sure to submit that as a PDF and let myself or Professor Anderson know if you have any questions.